Hi, my name is Sam. I'm a business coach and a business owner. In this video, I'll attempt to explain how to properly assign duties to your staff in an effective way so everyone in your organization knows what they should do and how to focus their efforts. This will remove ambiguities and help your people to be far more effective. Also, it will clearly show you who is performing well and those who are not, so you can act accordingly to improve your people's effectiveness. Without further ado, the following is my advice about the subject of management by objectives. Many small business owners try to do everything themselves. They manage the business, look after the advertising, sales, invoicing, they perform the debt collection function, hiring, firing, and everything in between. When they hire staff, they try to find people like them who can do everything. But they get frustrated when their staff cannot do everything they want them to do. Then they try to replace them with others who again fails to meet the manager's expectations, and they can get stuck in this vicious cycle. When the business is very small, with say only 3 employees or less, then it makes sense for the employees to do everything. But as the company grows, then this strategy becomes a hindrance. I'll give you an example. If you were to hire a salesperson to join your team of only 3 employees company, and the intention for this new hire to produce fresh new sales to help the company growth. As this new employee starts their work and learn how the company works, which is basically everyone doing everything, then they will automatically start copying the rest to fit in with this culture. This new person becomes super busy doing all sorts of things like the other 3 employees, and soon he or she will ask the manager to hire a helper to help them performing some of the stuff in their long to-do list. If you reflect back, the company got busier with this new employee, but are they progressing? Are they making more sales? Probably not. The sales might be hovering at the same level, but the company expenses has gone up. Unfortunately, this scenario is common. In a nutshell, the management and staff time got clogged with so many trivial matters, so they can't see the wood for the trees. The solution is a simple concept called management by objectives. This concept was initially presented by the management guru Peter Drucker. This concept encourages simplicity. So a salesperson objective is just like that, basically producing sales. A salesperson should only perform tasks related to increase the company's sales. So they should not lick stamps, do the shopping, and clean the toilets. If it's difficult to have one objective because the company is small, for example, then it's okay to have 2 objectives, and maybe 3, but certainly no more than that. The key for the employee and the management is to quantify the output of the employee. And that is reasonably achievable if the employee has 1 or 2 objectives, as they can provide a monthly report showing their progress against their monthly targets, and the management can verify that. So everyone knows how things are progressing with clarity. If you compare this with the common scenario where the employee is doing so many things, then there is no way to quantify their efforts and usefulness to the company. Unfortunately, those employees will be the first to be fired when it's financial crunch time, as they will be seen as surplus employees. So my advice to all employees is to find ways to quantify your output and have a laser focus on improving your main role objectives. You must be seen as providing much higher value than what you are taking in form of remuneration at all times. I would like to clarify confusion with many employees as they confuse efforts with effectiveness. Here's an example to illustrate this point. Let's say that we have an honest employee who is reliable, loyal, and hardworking, who always goes the extra mile. They should be highly appreciated. Would that be right? Maybe not. Business, after all, is about performance, and it is brutal. I'll give you an example. Years ago, we had a very nice and caring young man, fresh from the AUT University, who joined us back in 2010. His role was a salesman, receiving inbound phone calls from customers who have issues with their TV reception. Most of these callers needed a TV antenna serviceman to visit their home to check their TV reception issues and get it fixed. Our young salesman role was to understand the prospect's issues and suggest one or two solutions, give the prospects a rough cost, and attempt to book our service technicians to see them. Our young man was working so hard, he worked much longer hours than anyone else in the office, but he had the lowest rate of bookings because he was giving the prospects so many options that was confusing them and made them uncomfortable. Hence, they were eventually calling our competitors to take their business. We have tried so many things with this young man, but we couldn't change his style. He got frustrated and left. So please do not mix hard work with effectiveness. Your people need to perform well against their objectives, and the only way to do that is for your staff to be having laser focused on their objectives, as explained earlier. So if we were giving so many other duties to our salesman, then we wouldn't be able to pin down his performance issues. Remember, we do not hire people for the sake of making them busy. What is important is how well they perform their role and achieve results for you. Think deep about this. You and your employees must be focused on scoring highly on the role objectives and targets. So don't evaluate and reward people based on their busyness. Instead, base it on their achievements. A simple way to determine the objectives of an employee is by asking yourself, why did you hire them initially? And the answer is their role objectives. There was a need for their initial role before you swamped them with so many other things. Email me if you need to know more about this note. So it is key not just to have clear objectives, but also have clear KPIs associated with the objective. I advise not to give your employees more than 2 objectives and not more than 4 KPIs. Otherwise, it will be too messy and difficult to focus on too many things. Of course, the KPIs must be designed to fulfill the objectives. Remember this rule. If you assign too many KPIs and too many responsibilities to one person, then they have no real responsibilities. A person's responsibilities must be so clear, so baked in their head, so they can recite it while they are asleep. So go back and cut the list down hard and make it super simple. There's a rule called less is more. Not adhering to this can create a mess in your organization. And when things goes wrong, then it is difficult for you to pin down where things has gone wrong. So it will take you far longer time to fix it. And sometimes you wouldn't have the time, so you could run out of money through the process. Always, focus beats multitasking by miles. Also, simplicity beats complexity by far. Whenever people present a complicated proposal, I would normally reject it and ask them to simplify it so all stakeholders can understand it and play their part. Many people associate complexity with sophistication, but in my book, it's associated with stupidness. Steve Jobs once said, "Simple can be harder than complex." You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. But it's worth it at the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. A smarter employee should also understand the people around him and her and their objectives. Also understand the company's objectives and direction so they can ensure that they are always working on sharpening the saw so the improvements on their objective is contributing positively to the company's objectives. It is a must to dive into your objectives most of the time and occasionally have a helicopter view of the big picture to make sure that your efforts are well aligned with the company's big picture. I would like to note that the general manager duties and focus is a bit different from the rest, as the GM needs to be an experienced person who have worked in multiple areas and understand holistically the company's and individual objectives and aims, so he or she can lead the team and the company to achieve their objectives. A great GM would also understand the people's personal objectives and trying to align these objectives with the company's direction. So the GM should understand all business multifacets and know how to manage them all. The worst thing that a GM can do is to get itchy and jump into the doing themselves when there's an urgent need for something to be done and jump quickly to fill the gap. But by them doing that, the whole company performance can sag and drift, and this can be devastating. The GM needs to stay detached and having a full control from a reasonable distance above all functions. He or she needs to ensure that all stakeholders are doing their job well, but they should never perform the staff technical work themselves. A good GM should have a great mastery over areas like HR, finance, compliance, health and safety, operations, and many others, especially improving skills related to people skills, leadership, and motivation. The GM needs to be the conductor of the orchestra, to make sure that all doing a great job, but never jump and do it himself. She needs to be the master of the chessboard and not one of its pieces. Discipline is so important in business, and having a clear hierarchy is so useful so all understand what to do. Otherwise, the organization will be weak and in disarray. Here's a bit of a weird story from the extended version of the Art of War book. It tells a story about a general in a Chinese state army who were about to have a clash with another Chinese state army. This was during the period called Chinese Warring States between 200 to 400 BCE. One of his most courageous men was itching for battle, so he didn't wait for the general's orders, and he surprised the enemy with a quick charge and a sword action, killing 4 of the enemy's soldiers quickly, and he came back swiftly. What do you think the general have done for his courageous man? He actually executed him, because discipline and clarity is far more useful than the whims of individuals. The GM must ensure that all sticks with the plan. If the GM lets things sag and not impose discipline, then the organization will suffer. Discipline in many ways is far more important than courage, and even more important than excelling in doing our tasks, as lack of discipline will cause a serious decay in the organization, and if it's left untreated, then it could cause serious collapse. The GM needs to be the master of the chessboard as discussed. But if the chess players, i.e. your employees, especially those who hold the key positions, are incompetent or inexperienced, then your chess game and your business will suffer badly, regardless of how good you are. Hence, it is key to hire right caliber people and keep the right people in the bus and the wrong people off the bus. This has been well covered by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. Otherwise, you will be constantly putting off fires all over the place, and you will be on the back foot at all times. We have fell into the grip of this issue many times by hiring junior staff and giving them authority for providing purchase orders, for example. Due to their lack of experience in life and business, they lack the judgment to know when to say yes and when they should refuse to provide POs, for example. Under pressure, a junior will just give without thinking of the consequences. And soon, an employee that is supposed to be costing you not much in terms of salary, but the reality they can be creating the biggest leak in your finances. So almost at all times, more expensive and more experienced employees will be overall far cheaper than hiring a junior. You need to think of the overall cost of an employee rather than just looking at their salary alone. Hence, the hiring due diligence process is crucial in any business, as it can lead to winning or ruining it. I would like to share with you one of the success tenets of Warren Buffett, the Wizard of Omaha, who is considered the best investor in the world. He calls it management tenet. This is a key part in his 12 tenets that he thoroughly tests before investing in any business. His management tenet is simply based on who is running the company, who is the CEO and the key people, and what their tendency in terms of behavior and style. He studies the company's management history, and if he finds their performance is inconsistent and they try to cut costs by hiring wrong people, then he would not consider going there. Alternatively, by buying enough shares, he can force the company to hire the right managers for the right roles. and he locks them in long term, as they will look after his money very well. Once he installs the right management, he pulls out almost completely, and he lets the highly trusted people that he knows are capable of running and expanding the business. So simply don't go cheap in hiring, otherwise you are just gambling and you will just pray that they will do a good job for you. The GM needs to hire the right people, also assign to them the appropriate roles and objectives, agree with them on a certain outcome and a simple criteria to help them report their monthly KPI scores. The GM needs to collect all this data and study it and provide constructive feedback. He or she must have their formal quarterly review meetings with their staff. Also, the GM needs to ensure that the game plan at operation and financial level are meticulously executed every month. So more or less, their role is to collect data, analyze it, coach their staff to improve on their performance, and report the outcome against the company's plans to the company's board. I hope these ideas can make you think and reconsider your company structure, staff caliber, and how to assign their key duties. Doing it right means you will continue to prosper with less input from yourself and less fires in your business that you have to put down. Feel free to contact me if you're keen to know more. My email address is sam@takeyouThere.co.nz. Also check our website www.takeyouThere.co.nz. Also, please click like if you enjoyed and benefited from this video. Thank you very much.